Life is very strange. One day, you're playing Super Monkey Ball, and faster than you can blink, your pituitary gland pumps you full of the lamest drug ever. The testosterone high? Mad overrated. It's kind of like Molly, but make happy and horny, angry and horny. In the midst of hormonal highs, life can start to swing around really quickly. And you're bound to lose your footing. Quite a lot. In the midst of this turbulent period, society gives you a nice little goal. Learn how to ride the wave. Many impactful moments in my life happened in that awkward interval. And because of that, narratives written to mirror adolescence are really resonant with me, especially those that match the chaotic energy. Two of the best are FLCL and Kill La Kill. They're great shows to relay the pain of growing up. Dumb relatable. One problem with relatability though, I am an old person, living with his parents and talking about cartoons. We should fix that disconnect.
How do you do, fellow kids?
It is I, psychotic fucking hippie, who espouses random fucking hyperbole in his attempts to access the funny. I am here today to tell you that the coming-of-age archetype, well, it's fake.
It's false.
It doesn't exist.
It's an urban legend that never happened.
Fucking globalists made it up. Fucking Germans, they call it Bildungsroman. So what's the deal with... I can't do this, man. Alright, give me a sec. God fucking damn it. Okay. Take 6. So what's the deal with Italian infrastructure? The Roman buildings are in ruins, so why do we call this whole Bildungsroman so great? FLCL and Kill La Kill are in fact television shows. I guess you could call them coming-of-age shows, but as I previously stated, that is a concept devised by the deep state to have you fall in line with their status quo. Still, both shows feel like a fever dream. They are fast-paced and hyperactive to the point of feeling like I'm having a stroke. But then again, that's got some realism to it. Life is really overwhelming. The idea that sometimes, within the difficult periods of life, there's something to be learned and taken away from, so you can somehow avoid the negativity in the future, is a really tempting idea. Still, the thing is, steering into the skid of that negativity is going to be difficult. The ultimate reality is that a lot of the time, even if you find an answer, you're either going to forget it, or realize how little an answer actually matters when shit simply feels shitty. There are relevant periods of turbulence within FLCL and Kill La Kill that replicate this feeling of shit hitting the fan, and they usually manifest interpersonally. For instance, when Ryuko starts going on the presidential rampage, she gains a ton of clout for her various besting of all the presidents, and her and the Monshoku family are able to move into a paradise. While in a way this represents the immense pressure and totalitarian expectations placed on kids in Japan, it simultaneously mocks the shonen trope of throwaway mini-bosses. These are both valid takes, and as per usual, I'm going to ignore both of them and find my own meaning. The overt tone that you can kind of read from this entire scene translates into a coming-of-age mania, where the solution is basically surfing over the wake of random chaos and failing upwards. In comparison, the Monshoku parents react selfishly and childishly in the chaos, inverting the responsibility onto the children, revealing the falsehood of adulthood. Likewise, if I had to define FLCL in a word, it would be manic. And its mania is rooted in the fallacy of growing up as well. Naota and his father are pretty far apart due to their nice little Freudian rivalry. Although in this show, it's rather self-aware and kind of funny. In that self-awareness, Naota is almost painted as the mature one in that relationship for the sake of thematic irony. One can argue the semantics of whether or not that's the nature of him being the narrator, and therefore that's his skewed perception of his father. One could also argue that like Ano, that's Tsurumaki projecting his own message through Naota. One could also argue that I don't give a fuck, and I'm going to draw my own arbitrary line to retrofit my argument. The broad strokes point is that Naota is relatively mature, and his father isn't. Naota is also taking care of Mimimi. Again, you've got an emotionally stunted high schooler who's pretty broken in many ways, and sees this kid as a means of her escape. Again, Naota in many ways could be painted ironically as the more mature one, albeit Mimimi's mental illness is far more understandable as a narrative basis, but this is painted down to the fact that people call her his wife. Alright, next up, Bushibrow. Total fucking cock. Total fucking loser. Definitely less mature than Naota. Look, small dick. That is funny. Moreover, he's just screaming at Naota, projecting his own insecurities on him, under the guise of protection. There's nothing altruistic about his actions. He's just jealous. End of the day, he's still putty in Haruko's hands. Finally, we've got Haruko screaming at Naota, "You're just a kid." Obviously, the irony of that statement is that Haruko is spending her entire life riding around on a Vespa, chasing Adamosk, using other people, and generally being a wild child. The perspective I'm taking is very charitable to the idea that we should believe Naota's story at face value, which to be fair, we shouldn't completely. The embellishment in the narrative echoes the self-focused aspects of adolescence. Still, I'd argue there's gotta be a kernel of truth in these relationships, and that Haruko's statement of Naota still being a child has to at least read a little bit ironically while she continues to live a vapid and self-obsessed lifestyle herself. Regardless of the veracity of the narrative, I won't dispute this. Naota is still a child. Still, while he may be a kid, what inherent value have older people in this world established as a quote-unquote maturity? That's the irony, folks. Let's talk about it. The thing that really sucks about life isn't that one day you'll just grow up and start to understand everything more. It's that one day your circuitry turns on for real, and it makes everything shitty. Pre-hormones, you get to live your life on zero gravity mode, and after they turn on, it's, yeah, go fuck yourself time. It's not like life just changes and shitty things magically start happening to you when you hit that special age. It's just that for the first time, you're exposed to their real weight. That weight, in many ways, is purely similar to the absolute frenetic energy that both Fooly Cooly and Kill La Kill have. It's not something that stops, it just keeps coming. And to some degree, as a teenager, through development, you're just supposed to surf this non-stop wave of emotions as though it's normal. In the midst of this, you'll have the idea of adulthood flaunted at you, a sort of reprieve from this emotional turbulence. A base, where on the other side of this liminality, you'll find an oasis where you'll be all the wiser for maintaining and developing through this period. That's some fucking bullshit. And Fooly Cooly and Kill La Kill both expose that lie. Both prove that there is no such thing as growing up entirely. There's only slowly realizing that everybody else is just as full of shit as you, and there's nothing you can do but continue to move forward and not worry too much. I think there's a great debate that could be had about whether or not Kill La Kill is ultimately a feminist work in terms of showing a young woman having agency in her sexuality. Alternatively, your argument could also be that Kill La Kill is just another trigger show with overt fan service thrown in as many frames as possible. Yes. Am I watching Kill La Kill because it's a funny subversion of the shonen genre? Or is it because Ryuko is a hot tomboy? Yes. All I know for certain is if somebody shows me that PogChamp clip one more time,
Fine, I guess you are my little
garbage! Ruined it! I hate you so much!
Beyond the contentious issues, Kill La Kill also speaks about growing up. Ryuko tries to navigate the endless trials in front of her. These are always heavily visually represented by the dramatic differences in height. It's clear that her attempting to suss out what happened to her father is a sort of trial of growing up and figuring out what it means to be herself by herself. Moreover, regardless of gender, I think a really important part of growing up is learning to become comfortable in your own skin as a teenager. When Ryuko hasn't fully peaked in the full ability with Senketsu, it's because she still has shame. This is a brilliant moment because it does expose a real undercurrent of growing up, a lack of confidence. Thing is, the pace at which Kill La Kill moves makes this moment incredibly brief, and it moves past this motif at breakneck pace. But to some degree, this mimics life. Life is going to keep moving at breakneck pace, and there's nothing you can do to slow it down for your own convenience. As you grow up, you learn what is worth having shame over and what isn't, and how that is foundational in being able to grow up and move forward. You won't be able to move forward as a person until you develop this confidence, because life is going to keep stamping itself forward either way, and you've got to either buck up or constantly live in the pain of self-consciousness and worry. In Kill La Kill, the development with Senketsu is just the touchstone in the development of that full confidence as a human being. It's just the first of many rungs in the ladder of growth, and it's all a process. At the same time, that developmental confidence is a facade, because everything around you isn't always meant to be taken so seriously. That's the deeper meaning of the confidence found within Kill La Kill. Much like the story is kind of stupid, Kill La Kill could also be dissected as a deep piece of satire of any number of tropes within anime. The dichotomy allows it to be enjoyed deeper, or simply as a manic tomboy neon paradise that it is. And I love it. Part of growing up is just moving forward. It's learning to not let the little details hold you up, because life's going to keep moving with or without you being ready. Much like the many trials Ryuko will continually face, as the story keeps weaving more and more threads into the narrative gown. Likewise, in Fooly Cooly, there's all the narrative importance behind Naota swinging the bat. To some degree, this could be interpreted as the great coming-of-age event in the story. It can be read as a metaphor, for at some point in your life you hit an age where the weight of the world feels like it's on your shoulders, and you just have to fight with all of your will to be anything other than completely overwhelmed. In succeeding and swinging, Naota's able to summit the insecurities over his big brother, who he obviously has unresolved feelings with, most easily manifested in his relationship with Mamimi. Alternatively, the motivation in his swinging the bat could be an absolute show force as him actually doing something, a pure act with intrinsic value and growth in his character. Feelings most easily manifested within his relationship with Haruko. Well, the thing is, it actually just doesn't matter. Like at all. Everyone has their own shit to deal with, and they could really care less whether or not you've quote-unquote grown up. That means that no matter how much Naota is proud of swinging the bat, and tries to brag about it the next episode, and he cocky, see what they did there?
Visual symbolism.
Nobody actually cares that he grew up. They either see it as something to get out of him, as in Haruko, or are threatened by the idea that his growing up won't be good for them and what they need out of him, as in Mamimi. People have got their own shit going on. You extending your own bullshit isn't going to matter nearly as much to them as their own. It doesn't matter how much you feel that you've grown up. That's purely a you thing. End of the day, that one massive summit of your fears is just the first rung in the ladder of existential dread you will experience for the rest of your life. Let's take a brief pause from Fooly Cooly and Kill La Kill and talk about growing up a bit more. Inverse the hectic and manic energetic times growing up, you can often find a deep lingering sadness that can come to consume you as well. In those moments, the hectic chemical rampage in your head becomes a quiet storm, and you experience a well of inner focused violence. I think this kind of hinges on an important part of growing up, because a lot of the pain of that inner focus comes from the fact that it's really easy to think that you're the center of the universe when you're a kid. A story that does a really brilliant job of painting the brooding broad strokes of growing up is Goodnight Punpun. And in many ways, whether it be via abstract symbolism with missing internal meaning, or simply adolescent angst, I think it serves brilliantly as a foil of depression to Fooly mania. More than anything though, where the Venn diagram of mania and depression overlap, what I think it hinges on is evaluating that you might not be the center of the universe. And 91 chapters in, there's a panel that epitomizes this theme. Nobody has any obligation to give you any of their energy, beyond their will. So to a degree, this conception of adulthood being a process of earning something is really quite erroneous. Nobody's going to award you a medal that renders you immune from all selfish, childish decisions you could make, and you won't be granted one tangible piece of information that makes everything click into place. Likewise, both Kill La Kill and Fooly prove the importance of the fallacy of growing up. There's no definitive one point where you can say, I'm an adult now. And that's because there's no such thing as an adult. There's just a point where you've dealt with the hormones for a long enough period of time that you can hide the fact that you're absolutely batshit crazy like the rest of the world and act like a quote-unquote adult. So even then, what the hell is an adult? It's just something that you realize like, shit, I guess this is normal now. Part of that is riding the wave of why is life so fucking hard? And why don't people conform to the way that I want them to or expect them to? And why won't the pain go away? All of these questions are valid, and part of growing up is learning to let them be unanswered and remain that way. What, you expected me to try and answer deep questions about Fooly, an existential guy next show? Or about Kill La Kill, a wacky subtextual trigger show? The only thing these two shows answer definitively for me is that Yamaishi is fucking based. A lot of my love for these shows come from the fact that they reject the same dissection that Eva demands. And they've got similar motifs. Getting the robot is now getting the senketsu. But as a straight man, Oedipus complexes are weird and kind of cringe, bro. But electric complexes are fucking hot. Man, the reason I love Fooly and Kill La Kill is the shows are centered around chaos. And the point is to stop looking for a fucking answer. The real beauty of growing up is the idea of embracing the fact that no matter how much tangible knowledge that you've pulled down, you know absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, and learning to be comfortable with that. Look, if I look back at myself even 5 years ago, the only thing that I can tangibly say is different is that I have a different collection of words at the ready to try and convince the world that I'm smarter than I really am. Just because I say word gooder now doesn't mean that I'm actually any more comfortable with the daunting nature of literally every uncontrollable element around me. And I know a 25-year-old could watch this and say, haha, who's this foolish kid in his early 20s? He clearly just hasn't grown up yet. And to that, there's a 30-year-old somewhere saying,
haha, this silly 25-year-old lecturing the 20-year-old. Like he's even become an adult. Haha.
And beyond that, there's some 50-year-old saying,
these silly young kids, little do they know what true adulthood is.
And beyond them, there's some 80-year-old on his deathbed thinking to himself,
damn, these young fools all think they know what growing up means. I only just became an adult when I retired.
Yeah, 10 minutes later, Graham's EKG fucking flatlined. Long story short, who the fuck cares? Growing up is a banal construct. It doesn't really have any intrinsic value aside from what you put into it. And growing up, to me, means that I've just had more time with the uncontrollable events to contend with their nature and slowly let them become part of the background noise. Growing up is being able to shout proudly into whatever void you can that you are fully confident in facing an absolute mystery box of chaos, unhappiness, and toxicity. And you're going to do so with a smile on your face. It's facing overwhelming periods, knowing that sometimes there will be absolutely no reprieve, but also realizing, if you look around, everybody else is doing that too. In rewatching both of these shows, I was reminded of the constant energy they both maintained. Again, in a word, they're manic. And at times, the manic tidal waves of the shows can blitz you. So too in life can stretches become completely overwhelming. And within that, it can be tempting to feel like there's something to be gleaned. Add some mania to the mix and we've got ourselves one hell of a stew. With all of the positive feelings twisting through your brain, these emotions reinforce seeming truths. For a similar reason, both of these shows are desperately interesting to dissect, because they can be overwhelming, which makes it tempting to try and pin down just what they mean. In that dissection, they'll often seem to reveal plenty of interesting internal meaning that feel oh so right. But sometimes you just have to ask yourself if there was ever really meant to be a definitive answer. The fallacy of growing up is that there needs to be an answer. In coming of age, you realize there's no one best way to ride the wave. And whenever it gets overwhelming, or tiring, or sad, or happy, you just gotta hop on that sucker and ride it.
Date yo.